Hello and welcome to Interactive Music Theory Level 1. My name is Kelvin Cummings and this is lesson 10 out of 14, all to do with being able to become really familiar with what music looks like in its written form. In today's lesson, we're going to be covering the key signatures, which are going to be supporting that knowledge of scales that we've done in previous lessons there, and figuring out exactly how important they are in regards to music theory. So key signatures, how come we have those and what's the purpose. So we're going to have a look in particular with the key signatures of G and F. We're already actually quite aware of a C major scale without even knowing it. We're going to consolidate our knowledge of scales, so the pattern that goes within that. We're going to learn how to write a G major scale and an F major scale. We're going to complete some bars with appropriate rests. We're going to have a look at ostinatos and identify ostinatos within music. Now, all of the work that I'm going to be doing here today, there is a work booklet which is available in the description down below. There's also extension puzzles. All of the notes from today's session are going to be within that description below. And there's also a wee exam that I'm wanting you to be able to try out right there at the end. But for the sake of today's lesson, we're going to have a look at our work booklets on page 19, 20, 21, 36 and 44. Okay, so that's our lesson here for today, and as I said, key signatures for the majority of it. We're going to look at G and F major scale. We're going to look at some rhythm stuff there, and I'll have a listen to a rhythm pattern there and be able to try and write that down. Going to check out ostinatos. We've got the extension puzzle there, and then, as I said, you've got a wee assessment to be able to reinforce, lock in all of that knowledge, and hopefully by this point here you should actually be quite comfortable with what you're doing if you've been watching all of the earlier lessons. If not, go back, have a quick look at those. So, on page 19 of your work booklet, we're going to be looking at key signatures. Now, key signatures is when you have one or more flats and sharps which are placed to the right of the clef, so you notice the clef here, to let us know what key the particular piece of music happens to be in and what notes happen to need to be played as sharps or flats. So for example, in this one here, here's my treble clef. We've got a sharp on that line there. Now that line is an F line within that treble clef, which means that all of the Fs after this piece of music here will need to be played with an F sharp instead. Okay, so we're not playing them as Fs, we're going to play them all as F sharps. And that's all to do with that tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone pattern that we had there before. Here goes another example. Here's my treble clef. There is a flat symbol. Now that's on the middle line, so that means that that B note is going to be a B flat in all of these particular pieces of music, as long as it has that at the start. Okay? So, one sharp is used whenever we're using this G major scale. So that means that in this treble clef here, it's on that F line, that's a sharp. Okay, so all of the Fs will be a sharp. All of the Fs on a bass clef would also be written that way as well. So let's have a quick write of that. Here's my G, it's that one there. And notice with this here that I've popped it over top of the line. I can kind of see the line within that sharp symbol there. I'm going to do one more here. Boom, boom. Okay, and you can see that line there. Probably could be a little bit tidier, but you got the idea of it. And on a bass clef, that F is on that fourth line from the bottom. I'm going to make that a little bit neater, like so. And same with this one here. Boom, like so. Now, on page 19, having that F always played as a sharp, the reason for that is because we're wanting to get that nice major scale. So you can hear that it's traveling nice and neatly there. If we didn't, your G scale would be like this. Doesn't sound right. So being able to make that a sharp there gives us that tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone that we need within that major scale. So when we're looking at a G major scale, they have one sharp, which is that F. When we're working with an F major scale, however, we are working this time here, again on page 19, with a flat on the B note, so that instead of playing a B, everything's going to be played as a B flat, or A sharp, depending on how you wanted to call it. But in this case, we're going to call it a B flat. So in this one here, make sure that it's on the right space. So should be on that line. That middle line there, that's the B. Whoop, I'm going to make that one a little bit neater. Like so. Now, in our bass clef, that B note is just beneath the C there, so it's on that line this time. Just down like so. Okay, so that means that this time here, when we are playing an F major scale, we're going to, the B is going to be played as a B flat. And you can hear it's nice and smooth. However, if we weren't changing that to a flat with a tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, it would sound like this. So you can hear it seems quite irregular, and it doesn't feel right, it doesn't sound right as we're going through. Okay, so whenever we're working with an F major scale, that B is always flattened, and that's just going to be something that you're going to have to recognise and memorise over time. Now the last one we're going to have a look at here is when we're adding two sharps. Now two sharps this time around here would work for a D major scale. So on page 19, this D major scale has two sharps. One is that F sharp that we had there before, so let's pop that in there already. So here's my F sharp, like so, and make sure we've got it there as well. But this time, we've also got a C sharp. So making sure we're filling up that C space there. Now it is always going to be following that pattern. So as we add more sharps or more flats, depending on which scale we're working on, it will always start in the same pattern. So we had a couple of pages back an F sharp there first, then go to C sharp, then the next one would add after that. But I'll get to that over time. Look, with the bass clef, same thing. So F sharp and C. Whoops, make that a bit neater than that. And C sharp, like so. So here's my F sharp. Here's my C sharp as well. Make sure that you've got a copy of those on page 19 there. That's for the D major scale. So, starting off a D means that in this particular case here, instead of playing an F, it's going to be an F sharp. Instead of playing a C, it's going to be a C sharp. So it should sound like this, if we're following the tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Alright, so as I said, it sounds nice and smooth. However, if we didn't put those sharps and flats there, then it wouldn't follow that tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, so it'll sound irregular, it'll sound like this. Alright, which sounds kind of more sad and somber. Okay, so that's not going to work for us this time round. Alright, moving on. Let's see if we can identify which out of these is the correct key signature to be able to label it off. So, for example, this first one here, if it had one sharp, in this particular case here, which one would it be? That's right. Having a look at the notes there on page 9, is it 19? Yeah, page 19. So in that first particular one there, that one sharp would be a G major scale. Okay, so G major. Let's have a look at this next one here. So we've got two sharps this time around. So if we've got two sharps, this one here is going to be, that's right, it's going to be a D major. Let's go another 3. And so here we go. This one here, it's two sharps there again. So we already know that if it's got two sharps, that F and that C sharp, it's going to be a D major scale. Starting from D, going all the way up through to another D. Let's go two more. One sharp there would mean that this one here happens to be a G major. So always going to be that F sharp within that G all the way through to that high version of that G. Oh, we've got a flat this time, one flat. In this particular case here, that one flat is going to mean that it is, because it's a B flat there as well is an F major scale this time around here. Okay. Now, believe it or not, up to this point you've already been learning about all these major scales and things because we've done it instinctively from C through to C. Now, a C major scale has no sharps or flats. Okay, so starting from C, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, all the way through. And basically what we're doing here is we're just adding to that knowledge. So these key signatures here, so draw a key signature for G major in a treble and bass clef. You've probably already done this from the previous pages there. So here's one sharp there on that F sharp there, boom. And F is now going to be an F sharp there, and F is now going to be an F sharp there. A G major will only have that one sharp. Now, G major scale. We are looking for this on a treble clef. There's my first clue here. So drawing my treble clef in place. We're going to write this G major scale, and we're going to make sure that we mark in the semitones in the bracket appropriately. Now, what I've got in my example here is just the notes written out. Okay, you'll notice that I've popped the F sharp over here as well. So by doing that, that means that when I do actually play that F, that we are not going to be adding the sharp to that because it's already going to be played as a sharp. The key signature has told us that it's going to be. So here's my G, G, A, well, G, A, B. Now because we're in that middle line, stems come down on this one. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, because we've got that sharp on that one, G, boom. So tone, tone between these two, semitone, boom. Between those two notes there, there's a tone between those two, there's a tone between that D and that E, there is a tone between that E and that F sharp, and there's a semitone between these two here. Okay, so on page 20, that's how this G major scale has been able to work this time around. G to an A to a B, tone, semitone between these two, and tone, 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 semitone between those last two there. Alright, so let's do it in a bass clef, exactly the same, but this time here, bass clef at the start. Because we're going to put in the F sharp there, so that there is now proven to us that this is going to be starting from a G all the way through. Let me just confirm where I've started here. Yep, I've started from the low one. So in this case, we're going to be ascending. I'm going to be starting off. So there's my C, B, A, and here's my G down here. Boom. Notice I've got a space there at the top there. So here's G, A, B, C, and the space this time, D, middle line, so I'm coming down on the stem here, B, yeah, oh, sorry, that's a D, E, F sharp, and G. Okay, so writing the scale there, marking out the semitones. Well, we've got a tone here. We've got a tone between that A and that B. Semitone, dun dun dun, between that B note and that C note. We've got a tone between that C and that D. We've got a tone between that D and that E. We've got a tone between that E and that F sharp. Okay, knowing that. So we've got a full tone to get in between each of those ones there, and then we've got the semitone just between these ones like so. Okay, so just a reminder that that's the pattern that we're following here on page 20. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Okay? And this is all in G major, these particular ones. So, let's have a think about it. Ascending means we're going up, okay? So you can see that these ones are starting from that G, going all the way up there to the full octave above, so 8 notes within that scale to get up there. Descending notes go down, so ascending, going up, descending, going down, okay? And do notice that the semitones are between the 3rd and the 4th note, and the 7th and the 8th note, so I've been able to bracket off both of these here on page 20 as well, okay? So let's put that in action. So we're going to write a scale of G major in a treble clef. So let's get that treble clef ready to go. Boom, treble clef underway. Well, we'll get a bit nicer there. Cool. So here's my treble clef. It's in G major. So in this case here, how many sharps or flats am I going to do? It's G major, so it's got 1 sharp, which is on that F line. Okay, so there's my G major scale all ready to go. The key signature is telling us that already. So we're going to go 1 octave, 1 series of notes, descending. And then we're going to mark the semitone. So we're going from the notes up here. And we're going to descend from that first note all the way down. Alright, so let's start off here. We're going to go high G. Here's my F sharp. E. D, C, B, A. Notice because it's now below that middle line there, I'm going up on the right hand side, and here's my G here. Boom. Alright, now we're going to mark out the semitones. Now remember that within this is starting from our higher notes here, so we were notes, we had G here, which is note number 8. So there's a semitone right here. We've got F sharp, because that one is there. That's note number 7 within our scale. Then we've got number 6 here is an E note. Number 5 is a D this time around here. We've got C being played in note number 4. Number 3 is a B. Now here goes there is our next semitone. At C to that B, there's no key in between. So that B to that A, that's a tone. So that's the second note, and we're back to the tonic note of G. So that's the number 1 within that scale. So that sounds like that there. So semitone, tone, tone, tone. Alright, so we've got semitones between the 8th and 7th note and that 4th and 3rd note there. And we can confirm that by showing that. Okay, you've got a double line there, so I'm just going to complete that piece of music there as well. Double bar line just to finish our piece. Okay, makes sense so far? All on page 20. Let's move on. So we're going to do a bass clef, but this one here is going to be descending. So it's going to be coming down. Bass clef. Sharp. Because it's in G major, we needed that sharp there on that F. So we're going to start off with a G, F sharp, maybe not. Let's try one more time. Okay, maybe not in this case here. So with this one here, we're going G down to an F sharp and E, D, C to a B. There's another semitone there between those two. Down to that A, down to that G there as well. So we've got semitone, tone, tone, semitone between these two. We've got a tone and a tone for those ones there. So we're talking about these low notes here. So there's my G. So these are quite low notes this time round. Okay, so in this particular case here, as long as you've got the start of that marked out correctly, you should be able to follow that quite nicely. Okay, so now that we've got a good understanding of all of those in G major, because we've got that 1 sharp. Now we're going to do the same here with an F. So remember that with an F, it's that B note which is flattened for each of these to be able to keep that tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone thing going on. So you need to make sure that you have been able to mark those in the correct space there for the treble clef, which is the middle line, and then the bass clef is the second line from the bottom. So this time here, write the scale of F major in treble clef. This is going to be ascending, so we're going up this time around here. So here is my treble clef. I'm going to make sure that that middle line there has got a flat on it, so that's going to represent any note on that B line there is now going to be played as a B flat. So starting off with my tonic note, my number 1 note, which is an F, note number 1, it's going to go up to a G, an A B flat now, it's going to be a C, C sharp, oh sorry, not C sharp, it's going to be a D, E, and that finishes off at an F there. Alright, and I'm just going to pop the stems on there as well. Middle line, so the stems come down all the way through. Okay, so let's mark out the semitones. So from note 1 to note 2, it's F to G, there's a sharp in between those. From 2 to 3, there is a tone, so from that to that, so that's not a semitone. From 3 to 4, that's our semitone. Boom. So that is going from an A to a B flat. We're not calling it an A sharp this time around here because in the F major scale we're working with flats. So A to B flat, there goes our semitone, marked out with that there. So B flat to a C, that there, whoops, undo that. That C is the 5th note within that scale. We've got this one here, which is a D, which is another tone there again, so we're not going to mark anything out with that. That D to that E is another tone, and that's our 7th note there. But to finish off our octave, we've got one more semitone here. Semitone there, semitone here. Okay, the rest of those are tones. Okay, so there on page 21, you'll notice that with this particular piece of music, boom, double line there on page 21, is ascending from that F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and F, which will sound like this. Nice and smooth transition of notes all the way up there. Right, let's do the same, except this one here, we're going to descend, we're going to go down, and we're going to be working with the bass clef this time around here. So bass clef, reminder, get that underway there, you got the bass clef from there. So now it's a, whoops, it's a F major, which means the B flat. So it's the second line from the bottom to get that there. So we're starting off with an F, E, D, C, B, A, G, and there's my F just sitting underneath. Alright, so we'll pop the stems on those as well. Boom, 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 and so. Make it a little closer there. Alright, so we're descending, so here's my note number 1, here's my note number 8, so 7, 6, 5, 4, that's my 3rd note, that's my 2nd note in this F major scale, 2 and 1. So, where are my semitones? It's the same pattern as what we've been seeing all the way through. So, from that 8th note in the scale to the 7th is a semitone, always a semitone. So there goes my F note going down to my C note, so they're right beside each other. The rest of these have got one in between, but that B flat, notice it's on that line there, B flat going down to that A, that's a semitone, and these other ones here are tones here as well. So a reminder here on page 21 that we're following that same pattern. This is just kind of what we've done in reverse. So when we're going up, we're going tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, but when we're going backwards, descending, it's semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone, tone. Okay, so we're just doing exactly what we've done, but in reverse. Well, in this case here, these are fairly low notes, so we're looking at, make sure I get the note right, so it's an F below a middle C, so here's my middle C, This one. Alright, so we're working with some pretty low notes this time around here. All of this should be played on your left hand on your piano, or possibly sung by a male within a choir or something like that. So let's have a look. Identifying the major scales. This one here, we've got 1 sharp, so that automatically makes me think that it's going to be a G major. The other clue that I've got here is that it's starting off on a G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So in this case here, that's a G major. We've got this one here, 1 flat. 1 flat means that it is going to be in the key of F. And we're starting off with an F here, and it's descending this time around. It's going down, so F, E, F, E, D, C, B flat, A, G, and F. So in this particular case, F major. Now, let's have a look at this one here. No sharps, no flats. Okay? Now, I've alluded to this before. If there's no sharps and no flats, here's my C, and they're going up to a high C. C major scale doesn't have any sharps or flats in theirs. A C major, and that particular one there is quite a high. Those tones and semitone pattern that we had there in our major scale makes it so that all of these ones are white keys for a C major scale. Let's have a look at this one here. We've got a really high G note here. Oh, actually, no, it's not. It's in the bass clef. So we've got a high G note in regards to a bass clef, going all the way down to a G there as well. We've got 1 sharp, which means in this case here, it's another G major. So that's going from about here. And notice how I played that 1 sharp there to be able to reconfirm that this one here, that's G major on page 21, is covered. Alright, so time for a little bit of revision. Now, we have already spoken about the different notes and lengths when we start adding dots all over the place. So let's look at what we currently know. So we've got a crotchet beat here, so that one there goes for 1 beat, boom, like so, done. We've got the dotted version of that. It's going to be worth 1.5 because adding a dot adds half of whatever its length is to itself again. So we've got that one there sorted, done and done. Right, so which one out of these is worth 2 beats? That's right, it's this one here, which is called a minim. Hollow note, stem up or down depending on where it happens to be. One which goes for 3 beats, however, is a dotted minim, so 2 beats plus another half of whatever it is, boom, and the dot, which leaves us only that semi-brief there, which lasts for 4 beats. Nice and simple there. Let's get the opposite to that. Now, we've done this before. Now, this one here, that crotchet beat rest, has that kind of laser forcey looking one here, so that one there is covered. A dotted version of that, and curve, with a dot, sorry, is going to be worth 1.5 rests, okay? Then we had this one here, so for a 2 beat or a minim beat, we had one where it was sitting on the middle line of the stem, of the stave or staff, which is this one here. So that's that there, and a square box, kind of looks like a little top hat, I guess. A dotted version of that would mean that that rest would go for 3 beats, boom, as opposed to 2. And then we've got this one here which hangs from that 4th line from the bottom, which means that that would be worth 4 beat rest. So basically the whole bar doesn't get played. Okay. Now it's important that we know all of this, because what we're going to do here is we're going to complete the bars. On page 36, when we're asked to complete bars, it's important that we show where the where the beats happen to be. So therefore, complete 1 beat before moving to the next. Now, if that's half a beat there, what we need to be doing in this case here is filling up that beat first. So I'm popping in a quaver rest here, because I have a quaver note here that's worth half. So this is half here. So here goes my first beat. Boom. There's 1. Then I'm going to be filling it up to the next point there. So here goes another 1 beat there. So that brings me up to another one here. So this is up to 2 beats with these ones here. And then we're going to finish it off with this one here, which is worth 2, which means that we've now got that whole bar filled out. Now, that might look complicated, but effectively what we're trying to do is we're trying to fill up this cup or fill up this bar in such a way that it is logically filled up. So let's give it a shot. That first beat there is already filled, okay? So all we need to do there is to be able to go up to that next halfway point there. I'm going to drop in this crotchet beat rest here. So here's beat 1, beat 2. Now we can fill up the rest of this bar now with that minimum rest there. There's 3 and 4. And you'll notice that with my example here, that beat 1, fill it up to beat 2, beat 3 and 4 is covered, okay? I wouldn't put that before here, because what that does is it crosses over beat 2 and 3, and that doesn't work. So we're trying to fill it up to its next whole beat and then get it up to that halfway point before we move on. So here goes our minimum. It's already taken up 2 beats for the second one. So we only need to fill up the second half of that, 3, 4. Let's drop it in. So in this case here, that one's a nice simple one as well. Now, this one here is a reminder. It's got 2 tails on it, which means it's going to be a semi-quaver. So each of these goes for a quarter of a beat. So we've got a bit of filling up to do in this particular case. So first of all, we're going to need to fill up to its next point there. So here goes my semi-quaver. So that brings it up to the nearest half. Okay, so I'm just piecing this together bit by bit. So here's a quarter plus another quarter. At this point here, 2 quarters plus a half will get us to that 1 beat. So at this point here, I've only filled out 1 beat out of this one here. So quarter, quarter, and half. Now I wouldn't go quarter, half, quarter, because that's kind of like irregular sorts of jumps. So I'm just piecing it together piece by piece, making it logical steps there to get it up to that whole beat. So quarter plus a quarter gets us to half. So that half now is added another half there. So here's beat number 1 done. We need to get beat number 2 in place here now though. So here goes beat number 2 to be able to fill it up. Now officially we've got 1 beat, 2 beats, 3 and 4. We can drop that one in here now. Okay. So this one here, is challenging as it is, the concept is that we're filling up the quarter there to get to a half. We've got that half to get to a whole beat. With that whole beat to get it up to that 2 beats, or that halfway point, and then we've now filled up the rest of it there. This one here, same principle. We've got half a beat. Let's fill it up with that other half beat rest. Here goes my quaver rest in place here, ready to go. So that's filled up 1 beat. All we need to do now is fill up 1 whole beat here to match it up to that 2 beats there. And we've already gone through there. Let's finish it off with that minimum to be able to wrap it all up. Okay, so in this case here, quaver beat rest gets us to 1 whole beat. We put a crotchet beat in there, and then that minimum is going to be able to fill up the remainder there. So from this, come back to that previous page, we are filling up to the next whole beat, or half beat in one of those examples, get it up to about that halfway point, boom boom, and then we're able to clean it up in the second part there. And we've been able to do that in these examples here on page 36. Make sure you've got a copy of those as well. So let's have a figure out about exactly where these bar lines are going to finish, or sorry, where they're going to add in these rhythms. So how many beats in this one? It's going to be the 4 crotchet beat lengths in this first one here. So let's have a look at it. On page 36, we've got beat 1.5. That gets us another half. That gets us to 2 beats. Plus another 2 beats. That's 4 straight away. Bar line. 1.5 plus 1. Oh, sorry, 1.5 plus half is 2 beats. Plus that 2 gets us to 4 beats. So that first bar is full. We can't put any more into that. We've got this semi-brief here, which goes for 4 beats. So that one there ticks itself off nice and neatly. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 crotchet beats, or individual beats here. So there goes my 4 beats filled out there. We've got 2 beats from this minimum. We've got 1 more beat from these 4 semi-quavers. So as busy as it looks, that's just 1 whole beat, 4 quarters of it. And then that 1 whole beat there. So 1, 2, 3 and a 4. So here goes my one there. I'm going to pop a double bar line there just to show that we've finished that piece of music. Now let's have a look. Our 3/4 this time around here, we've got 1.5 plus a half, gives us to 2 beats, plus one more gives me 3. Fix that one up, 3. We've got this minim here, but it's a dotted minim. So a dotted minim is a minim plus half of whatever the minim actually is. So that's 1 plus 2 equals 3 beats. So that's a whole bar just by itself. We've got a beat here, a rest here, and a beat here. So there's my 3 beats here. So there's a crotchet beat rest there as well. Then we've got another dotted minim, finishing it off nice and neatly. So in this case here on page 36, that's what we're looking for. Just dropping in those bars at those particular points. Let's move on. Let's add bar lines to these rhythms. So, in this case here, same principle. So, 4 beats in the bar for this one here. So 1, 2, 3 for that dotted minim. 2 halves. Those are 2 quavers. They've got that beam there. Boom. There's my first beat. Oh, sorry, my first bar or my first measure. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.5 plus a half gets me to 2. 2 halves gives me gets me up to 3 plus 4. Here goes my semi-brief here. That goes for 4 beats, so I'm going to mark that as a bar just by itself. We've got 1 beat here, another beat here, well, a rest anyway, so but it's still worth something. We've got 2 halves, that gets me to 3 beats, and then here is our 4th beat. Boom, nailed. So there we go, we've got most of them in place. We've got 1, 2 beats where nothing's happening here. We've got 4 quarters, so there goes 1 whole beat there. So 3 plus 1 crotchet there at the end gets us to 4. So there we go, our bar lines there for that one. And we've got this 2/4, this kind of march feel particular piece. We've got 1 beat with those quavers there, da 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 da, and then we've got 1 whole beat here with that. So there goes our first 2 beats in this one. We've got 1.5 plus 2 quarters. Now have a think about it. 2 quarters equals a half. So half plus 1.5, there goes 2. Boom. Here goes a half and a half, there's 1 beat, half and half, there's another beat, and there goes our 2 beats there. Remember, we're looking for 2 this time. Okay, just a reminder there. So with this one here, 2 beats, there's your whole bar there. 1.5 plus half equals 2. Boom. We've got half, a half, there's 1 beat, a half, and 2 quarters. Half plus half plus half is 1.5 plus another 2 quarters there brings us up to 2 beats. We've got a half beat, so we're talking quavers, 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 quavers. And 2 whole beats there, done. So in this particular case here on that page, we're looking at bars being in these locations all the way through. I thought I had this already fixed out. Obviously not. That's okay. Is it going to drag some more things down? Cool. Alright. Done. Sweet. Moving on. Now let's see if we're able to use our listening to be able to identify exactly which notes are going to go in where. So we're going to listen into this particular piece of music a couple of times, and we're going to choose either a crotchet, which goes for a whole beat, 2 quavers, which goes for 2 half beats there, or a whole beat if you put them together, or this dotted minim, which is going to go for 3 beats. That one there will be quite long. Okay, so for number 1, let's have a listen and see what we hear. Da, 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 da. So that there. Da, 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 da. So remember, we're going to be kind of thinking about keeping the counting going on in our head as well. So let's go with the counts there again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right. So in this case, what we're looking at is, and if you clap that out, da, 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 da. 1. Actually, yeah, I've already got the answers here. So we've got 1, 2, and 3, 4. Da, 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 2, 3. Okay, let's have a look at number 2. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I've got my feeling of what it will be. Let's have a listen. Number 2. Now, if you were able to listen into just how smooth each of those notes were, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that last note was extended for quite a long time, whereas each of these ones came in on that beat. Right, let's have a listen to number 3 this time around. Okay, so it's different to that one, absolutely. Let's have a listen to 3 one more time. Now what you'll notice this time here is they've effectively just gone backwards. So, in this case they've gone 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So those last 3 notes there are played on those marks. Here we go, number 4. Dun, 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 dun. So let's have a listen again. Okay, now what you'll notice is we've got some of these quick ones. Those quavers are in place here, and they have filled up. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 2, 3. So 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, da 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 da, all the way through. Okay, so that there is matching up to those. Okay, might be a bit tricky for you, especially since we often are using 4/4 time, and I've tested you by using 3/4 time here, but it's a good thing for you to get used to in this particular case. So, ostinato, however. So this next bit of information here is on page 44. Ostinatos, believe it or not, you'll be really familiar with these particular things because ostinatos are repeated patterns of notes. Okay, so you'll notice in this case here how we've got that G, C, D, C, G, D, or G, C, D, C, and it just carries on that same pattern. That there is an ostinato. It's a copying of that particular piece. So they can be any length, they can be played on any instrument. Sometimes they can be used in bass, sort of symbol there, to be able to do that. Now, one which I always remember is the Jaws theme notes there. So that there is an example of an ostinato in action. It does speed up as time goes on. So what I want you to do on page 44 is your plan is simply just going to be creating an ostinato of this particular melody here. So it's an F major because I've got that B flat there. So I've got an F, G, A, G. And effectively what we're doing is we're just going to be creating that ostinato, that repeating sort of phrase that goes through. So again, so we've got, whoops, maybe I'll just have to show you the example of this one here. So in this one here we've got that F, G, A, G, F, G, A, G, F, G, A, G. And you notice in this one here how it's paired itself off like that. Not the end of the world if you didn't. In this particular case here we could have easily gone and turned this into a 4/4 and gone F, G, A, G, boom, like so. A, G, and repeated it that way. Whoops. Go back a couple of parts. Yeah. Boom. So we could have created it like so. But the idea of it is that it still is repeating that same set of notes. Okay, so nice straight notes there. So F, G, A, G, all the way through there. Okay, so there's one particular answer you could have. This is another one you could have had there as well. So on page 44, let's have a quick wee look at this. So what key is this piece of music in? It's got 1 sharp. So from the previous knowledge that we've done, this one's in G major. What time signature is this piece in? So that's how many beats are in this particular one. 3 crotchet beats in here. So we are working with a 3/4, or a waltz time. Mark the ostinato with a bracket. How many times is this played within this piece of music? Well, let's have a quick look. Is there a place where it copies itself out? Well, that doesn't seem to be copying. That isn't. It's not fully... Ah, here we go. Here goes one. Here goes another. So there goes. This particular piece of music has an ostinato which is playing this particular piece twice. So what is the interval between the two notes in bar 7? Now this is something I haven't talked to you about yet, but what we'll find on this here is that there's a certain number of notes that go in between. So that there and this G sharp has there's 4 notes in between those ones there. I'm going to explain that in future lessons there. So what does the term andante mean? It's an easy walking pace, so that means that this whole piece here is going to be played at an easy walking pace. How loudly should it be played at the start? MP, mezzo piano, or moderately soft? And is the distance between the last 2 notes a tone or a semitone? Let's have a look. Looks like an F going up to a G, right? Wrong. It's an F sharp. So in this particular case here, it's a semitone going up there. Alright? Now, we need to do ourselves a version of this. So we're going to copy out this melody here. So that's going to be an F, boom, G, A, oops, make that seem a little bit smaller than that, A, and F. Again, make that stem a little bit smaller. That's an A. Fill that space. B. And that's a C. Now, the instruction here is to copy out each bar of this piece to complete the well-known folk tune I've created from this ostinato here. So we've got an F, a G, an A, an F, F, a G, an A, and an F. My next set of notes, that A, that B, that C, and I'm going to ostinato that. This here, I'm sure by the end of it you'll be able to get an essence of what this particular tune is. So I'm going to copy this ostinato here. So da, B, C, D, C, it's a B flat, A, it's an F, da, 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 da. And we're going to copy out this last part here, which is an F, could do better than that, F, it's a little C, F, boom. Okay, so in this case here is our melody. F, G, A, F, and that gets played twice. Okay, you probably already picked it up. A, B, and a C, and that gets ostinatoed, so... Oh, sorry. A, B flat, C. So, melody so far. C, D, C, B flat, A, F, and that gets done twice. So starting off from that C, going down to the B flat. And then that last one is nice and simple, it's just dropping between that F and that C. Okay, did you pick up the melody? Whoops. Did you pick up the melody? The melody itself was Frère Jacques. So all from using ostinatos there on page 44. So, the extension puzzle this time here, you're needing to this time find your particular bats all the way through. So you'll notice that the bats, now if we can spot one here goes bat number 1. You can see the bat and he's actually got the number 1 beside him. What you have to do with this particular task is you need to kind of follow the track. So we need to find a crotch from around here. Well, bat number 1, crotch is going to go up to there. Okay. Then we need to find a dotted minim from there. That's going to get me to that point there. From a dotted minim to get to 2 quavers. In this case here, he's going to go boom up to that one. That's the only option we've got. Dotted quavers going to that minim rest. I can see that that is on that box, and that minim rest to that minim there, which out of all of those is that one there. So then we move on to our follow bats there. Now what will happen is from that it will identify that we've got a letter that it needs to go to, which is going to talk about what the world's smallest instrument is.
But wait, there's more.
What I've also supplied for you in this lesson here is the first of 5 different assessments. So in this one here, you'll notice in the link down below that there is a link for that particular assessment there. Have a quick wee test over all of your knowledge, see what you do and do not know, and be able to kind of, you know, if there's areas of gaps that you're unsure of and stuff, then just go through the previous lessons that we've gone through. We're up to lesson 10 at the moment, so we've covered quite a lot at this point. So thank you very much again for coming in. So this is Interactive Music Theory Level 1. My name is Kelvin Cummings. You've just listened to lesson 10 of this. I look forward to catching up with you next time. See ya.